Hi, I'm Terry Cralle, and I'm here today to have a productive conversation with Mike Vardy.
Welcome to A Productive Conversation. It's me, Mike Vardy, and I'm joined by Terry Cralle today. She is a registered nurse based in Washington, D.C. She's certified in clinical sleep health and has co-authored 2 books on sleep, Snoozby and the Great Big Bedtime Battle, the first nonfiction book directly messaging the benefits of sufficient sleep to young children, and Sleeping Your Way to the Top, the ultimate guide to success through sufficient sleep. We talk about sufficient sleep. We talk about napping. We talk about night owls, which is one of my topics, and fighting your body clock. We talk about some of the myths, some of the things you can do, and the direct correlation between sleep and productivity, as well as do we manage sleep or do we manage our relationship with sleep, just like we do with time? Terry also serves on the Start School Later Board of Directors, and she works with a variety of organizations throughout the U.S. and Canada to promote sleep, health, and wellness. She's here to do the same during this conversation today. I hope you enjoyed. Here we go. My conversation, a productive one at that, with Terry Cralle. Terry, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So I want to get into some of the things that I love about the body clock and sleep and all that stuff that I don't think gets as, I wouldn't say as much, well, no, I don't think it gets as much attention or as much play as, say, getting the right amount of sleep, so on and so forth. I want to just jump right out of the gate and tell you I'm a night owl. And so I'm very much someone who still strives to get like the right amount of sleep, but I've never been somebody that's been wired to go to bed, at 10, 9 and get up at 3, 4, that kind of thing. So for those that are, and especially in the productivity world, we hear a lot about getting up early, taking on the day, et cetera, et cetera. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, as we get into things, the idea of not so much when, is when you go to sleep important, or is it more how long? I'd love to hear when it comes to this kind of thing, because I think there's a lot of competing information, not necessarily false information, just there's a lot being thrown at people about, how to get a good night's sleep and when to get a good night's sleep and all of that stuff.
Sure. No, that's a great question, Mike. And we can look at it in several ways, but I think it's important to acknowledge first that a lot of us, we all have different chronotypes. There are morning larks, we call them. There are and night owls, and it's just one of those things that a lot of it's genetic. I know people that have tried unsuccessfully for weeks, months, even more to change that, and they can't. They're just not able to. So I think it's smart to sort of say, be realistic. Here's where I am with it. I will never be a go to bed early person and get up early and hit the gym at 5 a.m. type of person. And let me just adjust my life accordingly and lead a healthy life based on that genetic component that I don't have a whole lot of control over. And I think we can be healthy no matter where we are on that range, and just go with it and do your best. I think that sort of prototype of go to bed fairly early, get up super early, be at the gym in order to be successful, productive, do your best, and function optimally. I think we've seen that sort of fade, and we see people at the gym late at night that are night owls, and they get their exercise at a different time, but they're getting it, and they can lead a healthy lifestyle and be incredibly productive based on their own hour preferences. So again, we can work around those preferences, but I think the bottom line is get a good relationship with sleep. And when I say that, I have found, Mike, I've been in this little tiny corner of medicine for a long time, and there are so many people that have a horrible relationship with sleep. I can't tell you. I've been to health fairs, and patients or people at the health fair say, Terry, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then they laugh. And, I'm just pulling my hair out and shaking my head and say, no, let's change that. Let's really change the way you look at sleep. So I think the last couple of years I've been really saying, let's flip the script and sort of delve inside and see sort of, do you have a fear of missing out? Do you have a contempt for sleep? Or do you think people that acknowledge their need for sleep are less ambitious, less motivated, less productive? Are they lazy? I mean, we have some pretty, I think a belief system where we've just looked at needing sleep and talking about it as being unproductive and lazy. And now we know the research has shown us that certainly is not the case on any level. And sufficient sleep is a responsible way to do very well in life and to function optimally at all times.
You know, you mentioned improving your relationship with sleep. And I love that because we hear about management, time management. I don't like using the term time management any longer. I think it's, you need to improve your relationship with time. It's the same. Sleep is the inescapable. I mean, whether you love it or hate it, I mean, I love sleep. There's people that are like, I'll sleep when I'm dead and all that. And that culture has changed. You heard how fascinated I am about the whole body clock idea, especially from a night owl perspective. And my journey to past, learning and teaching people how to improve their relationship with time and cultivate productiveness has been something that I've been on for a while. But what led you down the path of becoming a certified clinical sleep educator? Like, what was the thing that, kind of sparked you to head down that path?
Well, as a registered nurse, you can imagine when you get out of nursing school, back in the day when I graduated, you were just on wild shifts. You were working days, nights, evenings. I mean, it just, anything goes. Did we talk a lot about sleep, how we're better when we're well rested, we're safer when we're well rested, how much should we be getting every night? Nope. Not a bit. We didn't talk about that at all. So a little bit later in my nursing career, I was working on an insomnia study, and I was recruiting sleep doctors. So 2 of the doctors were nice enough to invite me to their sleep clinic for a week. And I absolutely was astounded, amazed. It was a complete game changer for me in terms of my career. I was so fascinated with sleep, realizing how little I knew. Here I'm in healthcare as a registered nurse, and I really didn't know much of what I should have known about sleep at that point. So I stayed up all night for a week in a sleep clinic and watched people undergo the sleep studies. Mm-hmm. And just came away a completely changed person. Opened up my own sleep clinic shortly thereafter. And I've really been fascinated since then, but also very passionate about the need for sleep and sort of changing the culture around it. And then all the aspects that affect our functioning, and obviously the health topic. Physical and mental health. It's so important we get sufficient sleep to be our best physically and mentally. But then as soon as I started doing the seminars and workshops and really getting out and working with people in various programs at businesses, in schools, all these places where I go, it's amazing. People, I talk to people who are very, want to be successful. They're very motivated, but what they're doing, they have a horrible formula that they're trying to live by, which is trading sleep hours for more waking hours in an effort to get more done. And this is where every single person trips up. You can't do that. You do more, you do it better, and you're a better person when you're well rested. So we really have to look at sleep not as this downtime that we just sort of have contempt for, or we begrudge, or, oh my God, I'm out of it. We have to look at sleep as a productive time. Mm-hmm. And it truly is productive. I mean, our minds and bodies are going through all these sort of house cleaning steps. We're repairing ourselves, we're recharging. It's a shame we have to do it. We're still trying to figure out exactly why we do it, why every animal on this planet does it. I mean, it has some mysterious aspects to it, but we know we have to do it. And if we don't do it, we're going to pay the price, and there's no getting around it. Or I have people saying, I'm used to it, Terry. I've learned how to power through it. I've gotten used to getting 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep per night. And I look at them skeptically and then just say, tell me more. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, then they delve into the health problems. Then they delve into how they're not happy at their job. Then they talk about relationship problems. I mean, all of those things can come up, and see, it's all connected to sleep, and no one gets it. Well, very few people until they
Right.
go to my seminars, then they get it, right?
No. It's, it's interesting because the more I think about sleep and time in the relationship is that people want to conquer it. Like I gotta wring every last, like I've got to kind of beat it. Like time's not my boss. Sleep isn't but the fact of the matter is, I mean, first off, I love sleep. And it's so funny because once I decided, because I was one of those people that tried to okay, well, I'm going to try to get up earlier. And that generally happened when I was either had a job that didn't align with, the way my body clock worked. Although I was in charge. So I could have changed the schedule, but I also didn't want to work late at night because those are the social hours. So there was a lot of, we can never get exactly what we want 100% of the time, right? But the other thing that I kind of enjoyed about the process of figuring it, once I figured out, hey, listen, I'm not going to fight this. Yes, I can get by on 6 hours of sleep, but I'm way better when I have 8 restful hours. And when I just do a few little tweaks. I remember listening to, and I know this is not new, but listening to Andrew Huberman talk about don't have coffee right away when you get up in the morning. Just don't. And I'm like, well, and I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, because I know there's talk about cortisol. I don't know all the details. It was something to do with cortisol levels and such. And I thought, but I love the ritual of coffee. I love the morning ritual of making it. So all I did was switched to decaf for the first cup because it's a good, there are now good decaf things. So what are some simple things that people can do to kind of improve that relationship? I felt that making just that subtle shift helped me, especially because first thing in the morning, it didn't adjust my energy levels at all. I didn't feel no, I didn't have my cup of morning caffeine and I'm groggy. In fact, if anything, having the cup 3 hours later with caffeine, which means, and I only have 2 cups of coffee a day, 1 decaf, 1 not, it made it better. So that just that one tweak helped improve things. And so I'd love to hear some simple things that people can do, starting today, that will help them improve their relationship with sleep.
Okay, the very, very first thing to do is to look at sleep. It's a biological need. And the analogy that I use a lot is thirst. We would never say, I'm going to try to power through not drinking any water when I'm thirsty, or during the day, even when I don't feel thirsty, I'll try not to drink water because I'm going to power through it. I mean, it's just it would be ridiculous to say that about sleep. Similarly, I mean, I need it, but I'm going to try to power through it or get by without it. So I think we have to start off with being very unapologetic and sort of reframe sleep. The sleep need in our mind this is biology. I can't fight it. I can't defeat it. I can't work around it. I'm going to work with it. So I think there are things to do to make it sort of easier. And then to get a good night's sleep, we definitely start in the morning with getting natural light in the morning, kind of to reset our body clock, and find what works best with you in terms of waking up. I think it's real important to sort of do a self-assessment on how you feel when you wake up. We really should feel refreshed when we wake up, and pay attention. When you talk about caffeine, I talk to people frequently that say they do caffeine all day long to get through the day. Well, that's a problem, and you shouldn't have to do that. And if you are doing that, and say, let's start with every adult needs between 7 and 9 hours a night. Statistically, very few short sleepers, less than 1% of the population has that genetic variant. The rest of us need 7 and 9 hours. Okay, so how do you feel when you wake up? If you're not refreshed and say you're in bed for 9 hours, tossing and turning, you could have a sleep disorder. So I would look at sleep as a vital sign. Always address sleep at every healthcare provider encounter. Even if they don't bring it up, you bring it up. It's a vital sign. It's so basic to our well-being that it should be addressed at every counter. But going back, go through the day. Are you falling asleep during a boring meeting? Are you having a micro sleep at a red light? These are signs of you're not getting the sleep quality, the quality sleep you need, or enough sleep, or you've got an undiagnosed, unmanaged sleep disorder. So pay attention to how you feel during the day. But I also, make time for sleep, schedule that time management. How many things do we see about people spending 5 hours a day watching in front of screens or TV or these things. And that's another thing that we don't make the connection between sleep deprivation and being organized and planning our day, making good decisions, judgment. All of these things are impacted by sleep. So that prefrontal cortex, and you look through the day, you're saying, well, I'm not getting things done, or I'm doing them inefficiently, or I'm making errors. So look at your productivity. How is your focus? How is your outlook? Are you optimistic? Are you motivated? Are you nice to people? Sleep deprivation makes us irritable. We are often pessimistic, unmotivated. Things look bleak. And of course, when we're sleep deprived, we're stressed out.
Right.
And sleep is a wonderful way to mitigate stress. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is, "Sufficient sleep is like Kevlar for the mind." I mean, it makes us resilient.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things, think of how all of these things I've just listed really impact our functioning and how productive we are, or how unproductive we could be if we're not getting sufficient sleep. So I do find people that say, well, they'll tell me they're a short sleeper, and they're clearly not, because they're having all of these other related issues going on. But then, so that's something to think about. And then our nighttime situation, when it gets close to bedtime, do you have a bedtime alarm? That will help people. It's so easy to go down those rabbit holes on the internet or doing anything electronic based. And obviously we've heard a lot about the blue light interfering our production of melatonin. That interferes with sleep onset and sleep duration. Going nightcap, that's an issue where if you have a nightcap to fall asleep right before bed, that will actually wreak havoc on your sleep. Later in the night, as that alcohol metabolizes, that's a problem. Then we can look at the sleep environment.
And would you agree that it's not like a one and done solution either? I think that's the other thing too, is people want it to be like, okay, I'm going to dial this in and then that's it. But that's not necessarily 100% the case either. We were talking before we hit record, weather patterns changing. Like I know that in the summer, my sleep, unless I've set my environment a little bit differently because the weather's different, I'm going to not have as great a sleep, whether it's changing like the pajamas that you wear before you, like there's certain things that I think one thing that the culture of productivity, and when I'm going to use air quotes around productivity, because I think there's been some imbalance between quality and quantity when it comes to that term that's kind of carried itself over the past several generations, is that we want to hack it. We want to make it so that this is the way it is, and I'm going to templatize it. I remember once when I was working at Costco, I used to have a Covey planner, and I actually scheduled sleep in it. And people are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you scheduling your sleep? I'm like, well, because that way I'm scheduling my work hours. Like I'm here from 7 to 3 or so 1/3 of my day is in bed. So why wouldn't I schedule that? That way but I've never said, okay, well, that's the time I'm going to bed for here and now and forevermore. Like those things have changed. And I think, do you think that's part of the problem is people, who are trying to improve their relationship with sleep, they forget that a relationship isn't just a set it and forget it situation.
Sure. And there are a lot of variables in that relationship. And I just, that's the thing. Here's one way we talk about it. We always tell people in the clinical setting, don't try to sleep. Just relax, sleep will follow. We don't want to make it a stressful sort of thing. To me, sleep itself is the hack. Sleep is it. It is the bottom line. It is the basis of everything that's important, and all of our well-being, quality of life, and success hinges on sleep. So, Yeah, you're talking to someone who schedules sleep religiously. But real life happens. I don't ever want anyone set up for failure. But there are things you can do to make it better. But I think getting back to that attitude about sleep, look at how much the average person spends, sort of outfitting their kitchens and when you're house hunting, the kitchen is the room. But, again, that poor relationship with sleep, I think we haven't really paid attention to our sleeping environment. How many people do you know roll their eyes when they have to go mattress shopping? Well, I think the mattress is one of the most important health products in a home.
You're going to keep it. How long are you going to have it? You spend most of your time. Yeah, like I agree. That's why there's so many podcast ads with mattresses.
Yeah, exactly. But it's sort of, let's pay attention, not stress out, but let's pay attention and make that 8 hours, especially the time leading up to and waking up, make that enjoyable, something to look forward to. Nice, quiet, pleasant bedtime routine. Kids need bedtime routines, and so do adults. And we need that consistent bedtime and that consistent wake time. Our body clocks need that to reset and for us to be our healthiest. So little things, oh gosh, people tell me, I worked with a group of Wall Street folks one day, and they said as soon as their head hits the pillow, their minds start racing, and then they're calling, they're texting people. It was craziness. But you just have to say, okay, maybe at the end of my workday, I'll write down on paper what's going on, what to worry about, what I've done, what I need to do. It all looks a lot more manageable. And then put that away. Have a very uncluttered bedroom, that sleep environment. There's so many distractions that can be in the sleep environment that shouldn't be there. And that will interfere with sort of that peace of mind and that sort of serenity level that would be optimal for falling and staying asleep. I always encourage, if you want a distraction before bed, reading. Good old-fashioned reading is so good. I think 2 studies I ran across saying sleep quality was improved with people who were reading before bed. Things to do again before bed: yoga. I'm not too far. I'm a night owl, but not an extreme one. Okay. So I do like to go to the gym at night. I don't find that hitting the gym at 7:30 at night interferes with my sleep time of, say, 10:30 or 11. That works fine for me. I think that's been something circulated for years, like don't exercise at night or then you won't fall asleep. It just depends on the person and their chronotype. Mm-hmm. But see, again, I don't want anyone set up for failure. Find what works for you and do it. And look at it in terms of, I think if I have to get one point across today, it's there's that 3 pillars of health and wellness. Now, I did discuss this in nursing school a little bit. There is diet, sleep, and exercise. And we sort of always had them modeled as these 3 pillars. But we've looked at it. Now that what we know, based on what we know, it's a triangle, and sleep is the foundation. And I encounter people all the time that are having so many dietary challenges, exercise challenges, and a lot of that's obesity, chronic diseases, diabetes, and then heart disease, and all the things that come with obesity, and then sedentary behavior, and all these things. If we just got back to scheduling that sleep, just as you say, schedule the sleep, and everything else is so much easier. I mean, I think too many of us are making things more difficult than they have to be, because I think sleep itself is the hack. Now, how you get that sleep, do what works for you. I mean, sleep deprivation to me is like smoking was back in the day. I mean, when I was in school, people were smoking in the lobby of the hospital. We were smoking in restaurants. We did not realize how dangerous that smoke was, the secondhand smoke. Yeah. And now look at the change. And I think we're going to start doing that similarly with sleep and conceptualizing it the same way. Like sleep deprivation won't be laughed at. It'll be like, whoop. How responsible are you being? Sleep deprivation is incredibly dangerous. Healthcare workers make errors when they're too tired to function. Drowsy driving is incredibly dangerous. But, do we stop our friend and say, we stop someone when they're stumbling, or if we see ourselves stumbling, we don't get behind the wheel. But we shouldn't let tired people, sleepy people behind the wheel either. And then again, we start acting like drunk people after we've been wide awake for a certain length of time. That's how it impacts our functioning. So it's an important topic. It's one to think about, not stress about, but think about and really bring to the forefront. And everything really, really gets easier when you do that.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, you said it's the foundation. It's true. Like if you already know that you need sleep, which we do, like there's no question, then math plays in your favor too. Okay, I want to set aside 9 hours of time in bed, whether that's sleeping or not, because I know when I go to bed, I don't fall asleep necessarily right away, but it happens pretty quickly. The other thing I do, which would probably lend itself to other night owls who work out later at night, and I do that occasionally, is having a bath at the end of the day because of the whole lowering of the body temperature stuff, and that helps me as well. And the way that I think of that as a hack is in the morning, all I have to do is we have a rain shower, and I just like dunk my head under the rain shower to get my hair looking fine, and I'm good to go. Like I don't have to have a shower first thing in the morning, right? And it's cold water, so boom, it's like, all right, I'm a little bit more alert now. So, but it's not like I've discovered that in one fell swoop. I think, and that's what you're saying, is figure out what works for you. There's lots of models out there, but there's nothing that's going to be it's like everything else, like meditation practice or a journaling practice. Like you can have a bunch of framings and guidelines, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to experiment a bit. You're gonna have to play with it a bit, right?
Oh, yeah. And I think what's really interesting, I'm a huge Paul McCartney fan.
Oh, awesome.
And
you're speaking. I'm a George Harrison guy, but McCartney's there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Beatles all the way. So apparently we would not be enjoying the song yesterday had Sir Paul not dreamt about it. So that's how the story goes. He's been interviewed. He's brought this up in several interviews where he woke up with the melody in his head. And I can't remember where he was staying at the time, but the piano was close by because we often forget some of the things we're dreaming about. But the piano was close by, thank goodness for all of us. And he hammered out the tune of yesterday and then later came up with the lyrics. But there have been famous writers, all kinds of things have happened during sleep. Some people wake up in the middle of the night with a tune or a thought, solving a problem, all kinds of things, or early in the morning. So I always recommend keeping something by your bed, preferably pen and paper rather than electronic. Just record a thought. There you go.
I just for those that are, I mean, obviously you're not seeing this, but I keep a notebook and a pen by my bed. I use a traditional alarm clock, not my phone, even though you can sleep track. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but I want to, like, I'm not as concerned about tracking my sleep as long as I'm tracking the hours that I don't need to necessarily go, okay, because you can get caught up in the data. I don't want to worry about that necessarily. I want to, because the cost of me having the phone right next to me is too great. And I don't own an Apple Watch or anything like I used to. But the phone, the alarm clock I have is one that has a vibration thing underneath the pillow because I won't wake to sound, but I'll wake to vibration. So and I also don't want to wake my wife up necessarily. And that's another thing. I was actually going to get to a couple more things before we wrap up. I recently learned, and you would know more about this obviously than I, about the idea of couples sleeping together. I didn't realize like a lot of this came out of the Great Depression because they couldn't afford they didn't have enough bedrooms, let alone beds. So the couples would share a bedroom, whether it was two beds in a bedroom. And I used to be so against the notion of, oh no, we're married, we should sleep in the same. Now my daughter is 18. She's taking a gap year and then she's going to go to university here. But if she leaves, I'm like, all right, my son, you're moving to her bedroom and I'm going to take your bedroom and we'll have two separate bedrooms.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. Too many people struggle with this notion of it's a bad sign for the relationship. Right. Nothing could be further from the truth. Your relationship is so impacted by sleep or lack of sleep and the things that happen. We are more ethical when we're well rested. We are kinder. We are more grateful. We are better communicators. We are just all around the better versions of ourselves, well rested. And it's not worth struggling during the night and just trying to get sleep while a partner's keeping you up. I mean, it's a tall order to want the same, say, comfort support level in a mattress, or the same room temperature, or the same amount of blankets. I mean, it is just a tall order. And if you can't do it, I think you're going to have a better relationship, much better, if you just say, okay, well, for us, this is how we're going to do it. I mean, I think, gosh, our libido depends upon sleep. Sleep deprivation will negatively impact fertility. I mean, our love life goes down the tubes if we're tired. So what's the point?
Well, and the thing is the other reason is when our kids were growing up, we would take shifts because my wife is she's not really an early riser. She's more diurnal, but she'll still get up at 6. I'm like, I'd happily sleep until 8 or 9 if I, based on, so what we would do is at 3 a.m. would be the pivot point. So if one of our kids woke up before 3 a.m., I was the one that got out of the bed.
Right.
If it was once 3:01 hit, it was her that would get out of the bed because it was closer to her time to get up because she was already in bed by 10. So that's the other thing is she's a light sleeper. I'm a heavy sleeper. She goes to bed before me. I go to bed later. So it's very, it makes perfect sense. And honestly, yeah, for the longest time, the only reason you wouldn't do it is the insecurity factor of like, we have to be in the same room because what will people think, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I'm like, I'm at the point now, we've been married almost 20 years where, hey, look, we're doing okay. It's fine. And truth be told, it allows you to do things like, okay, if you have family over, whatever, sure, you could sleep in the same bed for a few nights or whatever. That's not a big deal, but it's definitely something that we've decided that we're going to do because it just makes all the sense in the world. Last question, napping. Actually, I got 2 more, but one of the biggest ones was napping. I remember speaking at an event, and I asked somebody who had written a book about sleeping and smarter sleeping, as I said, what's your thoughts on naps? And the response I got was, are you a baby? And I said, no, I'm clearly not a baby, but I love my naps. And so what are your thoughts on, I mean, people talk about having a power nap and I know certain tech groups would have like napping stations and things like that. What are your thoughts on the idea of napping? Are they necessary if you get the full amount of sleep per night? Is it augments it? Where does the research and where your thoughts lie on that?
I mean, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. What it is, if I have an early flight somewhere, I don't want to accrue sleep debt. I will take a nap that afternoon. That it's a situational thing. I feel better. I don't want to get behind in my sleep. I want to stay on top of it. I feel better and do better, obviously. So even a very short nap, people, I've gone to the companies that have brought in the napping pods, and you can go on a coffee break at 2 p.m. or you can go take even a 10, 15, 20-minute nap can really get you back to where you should be. I mean, let's just say the next door neighbor's dog was barking all night and kept you awake. I mean, kind of hate to have your whole day shot if you still have to, get through the day. I'm just very much in favor of grabbing a nap if you need one. If you find yourself, exhausted in the middle of the day and you've slept a sufficient amount at night, talk to your healthcare provider about that. Again, it's a vital sign, but I think they're wonderful things. And I think they can, I talk to nurses who work the night shift. Some of them need to take a nap before driving home, or they shouldn't be driving home if they're too tired. But I think they just come in handy. And shift workers, that they have tough lives, the shift workers who are, say, working night shifts. When do they sleep during the day? When do they need to be awake for their kids? Can they grab a nap before they go to work at, 10 o'clock at night or whatever? I think they come in handy. There's no right or wrong. I think some people are better at doing them. I think if you take one, it just depends on the circumstances. A long nap may result in sleep inertia. That's that grogginess. So depending on what you're doing, that might be a little problematic. There's great things called coffee naps.
Yes, I was just going to mention that. Austin Kleon talks about that. The idea of, and this, you mentioned the pods, like have your coffee at your desk, and then when you're ready for your nap, go have it after you've had your coffee, and then what is it, about 20, 25 minutes before the caffeine kicks in? Something like that?
Yeah. Yep. One of the developers of the early napping pods was, he was in Empire State building his offices, and I went up to see the pods and meet him, and they were amazing. They are amazing. But I spent probably 15 minutes in the pod in the afternoon, and you come out. It was such a light, to me, it felt like a light sleep, but I felt fabulous the rest of the day. I mean, it's amazing what a little 15, 20 minutes can do in terms of, really just rejuvenating you, getting your energy level back up, getting your concentration, your focus back. Just think of all the things we rely on to have a good, productive day. I mean, all of the things we pull from in our minds and our bodies, and so that's a great thing. I think people benefit.
What are some of the things that you're working on right now? And that will, as we're recording this, but also that, you think will stand the test of time regarding, making sure that people improve their relationship with sleep?
Yes, I'm very involved in the Start School Later campaign. We are really working hard for healthy hours for teenagers to go to school, so they don't suffer any horrible effects of sleep deprivation on a chronic basis. Some of the high schools in this country, or all countries, my high school started at 7:20 a.m.
Yeah.
And teenagers are not genetically, they go through a stage where they get this melatonin production late in the evening. So it's called a phase delay. So they tend to get tired later than people in other age brackets, and then they'll sleep later. So here we're forcing teenagers at this very vulnerable and important time in their lives to walk around like zombies, because they can't just make themselves go to bed at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Teenagers need 9.25 hours of sleep per night. And we're finding that these early school start times, kids aren't getting anything close to that. They're getting about 6 hours, 7 hours in a good day. And it's incredibly dangerous. I mean, short and long-term health effects and the psychological problems are alarming. We've got a higher propensity for drug abuse with these sleep-deprived teens. Obviously, the obesity, the risk for suicide, risky, poor judgment, poor decisions, problems learning, just really serious. And of course, these are new drivers. And they're just in a sleep-deprived state on a chronic basis. It's very dangerous. So, yeah, we're working hard with that.
It's weird because you're right.
Because
the older the kids get, the earlier they go to school. My daughter was going to school, and I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Not at all. And these can just really result in lifelong health problems, both mental and physical. And then when you think about what's going on in our society now with gun violence, serious problems, and we know sleep deprivation and bullying have been connected, aggressive behavior, violence, just poor judgment, poor decisions, all of these things. So we really need to look at this on many different levels. I tell people sufficient sleep has to be a personal, a family, a classroom, and a workplace value, and it impacts pretty much every aspect of our personal functioning, but also how we function as a society. And it really needs to get to the forefront.
Terry, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks so much for taking the time today. Where can people keep up with you and the work that you're doing?
I hang out at the Better Sleep Council, and the website is bettersleep.org. I'm on Twitter at Power of Sleep. I'm on LinkedIn, and I post things about sleep all day, all the time. So the research is fascinating. I find the topic fascinating. I hope to get some other people excited and passionate about sleep. It's a good thing.
Thanks so much for having a productive conversation with me today.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks so much to Terry for joining me on the program today. You can check out all the relevant links to her books, to the stuff we talked about, to related blog posts, podcasts, all that stuff at productivityist.com/podcast 483. too. The other thing you can do to check out more about what the show has to offer, as well as help the show out, is subscribe to the show. Wherever you're listening to this right now, just hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss a single episode of what's to come. We're nearing the 500 mark, so there's lots to come. And of course, there's over 480 episodes in the archives that you can find quickly and easily as a subscriber. Another way to support the show is to visit our sponsors page. You can check out the sponsors you heard on today's episode, as well as others at productivityist.com/podcast sponsors. That's it for this episode of A Productive Conversation. Until next time, I'm Mike Vardy, your host, reminding you to stop doing productive and start being productive. See you later.